This is what the Snappa homepage looks like, and this is where you'll end up once you create your Snappa account. I'm going to skip over that part because it's pretty simple. The link to it will be down in the description, so check that out and create your account. Now we're on the homepage, and at the very top what we have is a place to create a graphic with custom dimensions, and this will be in pixels. So you put your width here, your height here, and click create. Or you can keep scrolling down for templates, and these templates have the correct dimensions that these platforms need. Up top here we have social media posts, then we have blogging and infographics, headers and banners, and then we have other social needs and ads. So as you can see, pretty simple, just the basic essentials of what you may need, nothing more, nothing less. We are going to jump into creating the exact thumbnail for this video, but first I just want to show you around so that you can get to know the app. And I'm going to click here on YouTube channel art, and that will bring us to this page where we can choose how we want to proceed. We can either start from scratch, so it will give you a graphic that has the correct dimensions you would need for a YouTube channel art, but it's going to be blank. Or you can choose from one of these featured templates. So these are most likely popular templates that a lot of people use, or you can keep scrolling to find one. Now these templates are created by expert graphic designers, and they're like a starting point for you to create your YouTube channel or your thumbnail, your end screen, your ebook cover, whatever it is that you're choosing to create. All you have to do is click on it, and then you can edit the colors, you can edit the text, the graphics, and you can make it your own and customize it. It's just a starting point. I'm going to select this one so I can show you how you would edit a template. And that brings us here to the graphic editor where we can start customizing things. And I know that if you're like a new creator, you're new at creating your own graphics, all this can seem very overwhelming, but trust me when I say that this is pretty basic. Other design softwares and apps have options everywhere, but Snappa keeps it pretty simple, which makes it easy for you to get started and get some experience. And then once you know how to use this, you can move on to something like Canva or GIMP or PicMonkey, something like that. So I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up to explain to you and give you a full walkthrough so that you become familiar with this app or software. Down here we have this blue message icon, and here's where you can come search for help. So if at any point you have a question about how to do something, just come here and search for it. Most likely you'll find how to do anything you want to do very quickly. Right beside here we have the zoom option. So here's this little circle. You just click and hold and drag it over if you want to zoom in, and this is helpful for when you want to do some minute detailing on your graphic. If you want to get things as perfect as possible, sometimes this is necessary. You can also zoom out so that you can see how your graphic is going to look for the intended platform. On YouTube, for example, thumbnails look very small on a phone or when you're scrolling through a device. So if you want to make it far like this so that you can see if the text is going to be visible, this is also helpful for that. And then at any point you can also tap or click on this button that says fit to bring it back to normal. Now let's go up here. We have this download button. When you're ready to download your graphic, just tap on that, tell it what kind of file you want, or even if you want a transparent background, and click on download. Next to that we have share, and here you can add an account. I think right now they just support Facebook and Twitter, but I'm not completely sure. But just click on add account here so that you can share your graphics out to your social media. Next to that we have save. When you're all done with your graphic, you can save it, or even throughout the process of creating your graphic, I recommend that you save it periodically just in case anything happens. You have your work saved, because this isn't like Canva or other apps that will save automatically for you. Here on the save window, you can see that up top we have all your graphics, and this is by default where all your graphics will go unless you choose a folder. I have two folders set up right now, one for Poshmark and one for YouTube. To add a folder, you just click this plus green button, name your folder, click save, And now you can save your work there. And now we've come to my favorite feature when it comes to Snappa, and that is this toggle safe zone. And this is what actually sold me on Snappa, why I even started using it in the first place. Let me show you and explain to you what it does. So right here, this whole channel art is the exact dimensions that it needs to be, which is 2560 by 1440. That is the only size that YouTube will accept when you make and upload a channel art, and most design platforms stop there. We have to figure out the rest on our own, which is that these graphics need to work well for a lot of different devices, not just phones, not just tablets. It needs to work well everywhere. And that's what this toggle safe zone is for, to make sure that your graphic looks good everywhere. So you could turn this off and on. So right here it's on, and let me zoom in to show you. Up here it shows you that this is the TV only area. Below that we have the desktop, the tablet, and then in the middle here is the phone, which is where most people will be watching. So with this toggle safe zone on, you can make sure that your text and graphics are where they need to be and that nothing is cut off. So if you didn't have this toggle safe zone on and you put this text a little bit above here, then you would only be able to see it completely on the TV only area, but not on the phone. On a phone, all you would be able to see is for neat and tidy. So you wouldn't be able to see the whole thing. So that's why this is so useful. You can turn it on and off, and as you're creating your graphic, you can make sure that all your elements, all your graphics, your shapes, your text, everything is right where it needs to be, so that it makes sense across all the different devices where people will be seeing your graphic. And the toggle safe zone applies to many other graphics you'll be creating on Snappa. Things like your end screen outro, which I made a video about. I will leave link down in the description. Also Instagram stories, Facebook covers, and so many other things. This toggle safe zone will guide you so that you're creating things in the right dimensions. I'm skipping right over this next button that says toggle snap to grid. I have yet to find use for it. And I'm moving on to this toggle grid. When you click on toggle grid, it will give you these horizontal and vertical lines on your graphic. So these are kind of like grid lines that you can use to make sure everything is evenly placed on your graphic. Then we have this trash icon. Select anything you want on the graphic. So if you were using this template but you didn't really want this square or rectangle here, then you can just select it. You know it's selected when it has this dashed line around it. And then you can click delete. But you can also click delete on your keyboard to delete things. Then next we have the layer options. So here we have this text that is on top of this white rectangle box. If I click on it and select it, then we can use these layer options to move it back or forward. So if I click this back, it's going to move it right behind that white rectangle. If I click forward, it's going to move it in front. So that's what these are for. And then we have the duplicate layer. So you can select whatever you want, click duplicate to make a copy of it. So if you wanted some more text, then that's what you would use it for. And then we have the undo and redo, which is pretty self-explanatory. If you ever make a mistake, just undo it. Moving along to this left hand side, this is where you will start to customize your template. We're going to start with this option here that says shapes. Now here is the simple list of shapes that they have. Not very many to choose from, and it may look super basic, like what can you even do with these? But shapes, when used correctly, can really elevate a design. Here, for example, we have this rectangle that is kind of adding some more depth so that it's not just all one graphic. And then we also have this white rectangle in the back of this text that is helping the text pop out even more. So you can use shapes for different things. You can add lines to add a little bit of style to your design. So just choose any shape you want, click on it, and it will add it to your design. Once you have it selected, here you'll have a new window that will give you different options to customize it. So here the line can either be solid or it can be dashed. You can change the color here, and you can change the size of the line here to make it thicker or thinner, and here you can make it darker or lighter. Or you can select any shapes already on this template, to customize it. So if I wanted to change the color of this pinkish rectangle, I just click on it, and then we can either make it a solid color, or we can change the color. We can add a border to it, a solid or a dashed border, and we can change the border color here. Then we can increase the size of the border by clicking these arrows up or down, or you can just input your own number here. You can round the corners of this rectangle to make it a little bit less pointy, and of course you can also lighten it up if you wanted to. Moving along to the next customizing option is graphics, and graphics are divided into 4 different tabs. We have icons, photos, uploads, and then these favorites option. Here for icons, you can search for anything you want. You can search for an arrow to add to your graphic. You can search for Instagram or any other social media platform if you wanted to add your socials to your design. And as you can see, when you hover over these icons, there's a star button next to it. So you can always favorite it so that it's easy to find if it's something you're going to be using again and again. The next tab is photos, and it works very similar. You can just search for something you want. Here I've searched for minimal. You can search for social media, office, journals, tropical. Just think of any keywords that relate to the kind of graphic you're looking for and search for it, and you can find many here. And these are all free to use, and same with the icons. You can star them to favorite them. You can also upload your own image. Just click this green rectangle up here. Search for the image that you want. Click open. And if you hover over any of these images, you can always favorite them, crop these, or you can delete it altogether. To add the photo to your design here, just click on it. Maybe we should delete the one that's already there. Then all we have to do is hover over it. When you see the 4-headed arrow, that means it's ready to move. So just stretch it out so that it fits how you like it. And I'm going to set it down right about here and use this layer option that we went over earlier so that it goes back behind this pink rectangle. And now that this image is on our design and that it's selected, here's the options we have. We can rotate it, or we can make it lighter or darker. And the last tab on this graphics option is the favorites, like we've been talking about. So these are all the ones that I've put a star next to that I'd want to use again. Next up is text, and here you have 3 different options: a heading, subheading, or if you want to add just a little bit of text, just click on it. It will send it over here to your design. Once it's selected, you'll get this window with the different options. And I'm going to go ahead and delete that and go over the options using the text that's already here on the template. So if you get a template and you want to just switch around what the words say, just double click and select everything and write what you actually want it to say. And as you can see, it laid out my text into 3 separate lines. That is because this dotted square box around it is way too small, so we can always stretch it to make sure that our text fits like we want it to, whether that's all on one line or if we want to press enter right before books to make it be on 2 separate lines. Here on the left hand side, we also have the option to change the fonts. And all of these fonts are free to use, and they have many to choose from, but here you can also add your own font if you want. Then of course, like many other editing softwares, you can bold, italicize, you can change the font size by using these arrows, or you can type in the actual size you want. You can align it to the left, to the right, or in the middle. Here you can change the font color as well. By default, most of the time it's on popular. So on top is just very basic popular colors that a lot of people use. We have recent, but also right here next to popular, you can click to add a custom color. Just click and hold this circle and move it around until you find the precise color you want. You can also click and hold this bar on the side to move around this side and create a custom color. Another way you can add custom colors is by clicking on this edit button down here on the lower right. Click on add, and then you can do the same thing as we did earlier and just kind of look for a color that you like by moving around this line and this circle. Once you find the color that you like, it's going to give you a hex code, And you can use this hex code across all your platforms and anywhere else you'll be creating designs, just so that your brand can stay consistent. For me, for example, these are the 3 colors that I use all the time for my graphics so that my designs are somewhat consistent. So choose the colors you want and then click save. And now when you click on your text, you'll have the saved options down here as well. But I'm going to keep it black for now. Next, down here below, we have the letter spacing. If I move it to the left, it will make my letters close together. If I move it to the right, it will make them farther apart. Same thing with the line height. When we have separate lines of text, we can move them farther or closer apart from each other. Then we have shadow, and this sort of gives an outline to your text. Right here it's at 0, but we can change it to 5. It did give us the outline, but it's in black, so let's go ahead and change the color. Here in the middle, you can also choose to blur your outline if you want to give it that effect. And then the last thing on this text options is either to make your text light or dark. And remember, you can always turn this toggle safe zone back on to make sure that you're staying within the requirements. So we know that this is not gonna work how I had it, so I'm going to move it over a little bit and make it a little bit smaller. Move it on down, work on this line as well. Moving on to the next option, we have effects, and this one here will not apply to this particular design because if I move these books out the way, you can see that the background is white, and these effects are for background, so it would apply more for photo backgrounds or pattern backgrounds, which we'll get into when we create the thumbnail, but it doesn't apply here. So moving along to backgrounds, we have several options here. We have photos, patterns, uploads, colors, and then your favorites. Photos works the same way as we've been talking about. You can search for any keyword to find different photos that you want for your background. Patterns are basically just gradient backgrounds. And then we have uploads. If you want to download a background from a different free photo website like Pexels or Pixabay or anything like that, you can, and then just upload it here. Or you can choose just a simple colored background. And of course, you can always get to your favorites here. Once you do add a background, you have different options for it here as well. But again, we'll get into those once we start creating the thumbnail because they don't apply too much to this design. And the last things that we're going to go over before we start getting into the thumbnail is this top line up here. So here, this blue button is for you to upgrade. Of course, to use Snappa, it is free, but you do have just 3 downloads per month, which you can always screenshot your design if you don't want to pay, but you can always upgrade to Pro, which is $10 if you pay annually, which is a pretty decent price. You get tons of templates, tons of free photos and graphics, and then you can have unlimited downloads, and then you can integrate your social media and upload custom fonts. And then of course, if you're running a team, you can move on to the next one. But right beside that, you can duplicate your design. So say you made this design here and you wanted to do another one, just switch out the colors and stuff like that so that you can easily create your graphics faster. Then we have resize. So say that this wasn't a channel art. If this was, say, a YouTube thumbnail, and then you wanted to promote it on your Instagram, you click on resize. You can add your own dimensions if you want, or you can click a dimension down here. So if I click on Instagram post, I can either open a new graphic, or I can make the graphic I'm currently working on into Instagram post dimensions. Let's click on open a new graphic for now and click on view image to see what we're working with. So this is what it looks like, and it doesn't fit very well, but now all you'd have to do is come in and adjust a few things so that it can make sense for your Instagram post. And resizing and adjusting things makes it a lot easier than starting a new design from scratch when you want to promote your YouTube videos on Instagram, or when you make an Instagram graphic but then you want to use it as a thumbnail. You can easily just readjust things and have a new graphic for a new platform in a few simple steps. Here of course are your dimensions, nothing to edit here, but right next to that is where where you can name your design. And when you download it, it will save as this. Lastly, we have menu, where you can go navigate the different folders you've created, and also click on create a graphic to go back to the drawing board, which is where we want to go so that we can finally start creating our thumbnail. But before we jump into all of that, if you've liked the video so far, make sure to support this channel by giving me a thumbs up down below. And don't forget to subscribe as well, because I make videos like this all of the time. So I'm scrolling down to social media posts, and I'm going to choose the YouTube thumbnail template. And here you can look for something similar to what you would want for your YouTube thumbnail design. Or you can start from scratch, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to click on there, and that is going to bring us to the graphic editor. On another tab, I have the thumbnail open up so that I can come back and reference it when I need it. Going back to the blank tab though, I'm going to start from the very bottom layers and work my way up. For the background, I searched, I'm pretty sure, for just minimal, but I put minimal plant right here so that I can get this exact image that I use. And then from here, we're going to use these editing options to customize it. We're going to use this reposition option, and then it's gonna let us sort of crop it and zoom it to how we want it. So I just wanted the little plant to show in the back, just so that I wouldn't have a plain white background. Once you're done scaling it, which I did by moving the slider over to the left, to the right, hovering over the image, when the four-headed arrow appears, you can move it around. And once you're happy, click apply. From there, now we can use this effects option. Here you can darken the image or make it lighter. You can add a little bit of blur, and then you can adjust the other options that are down here as well. The cover overlay, that's going to sort of overlay a cover over the whole image. Right now it's selected in blue. So if I scroll this slider over, it's going to make that blue a bit darker. So you can make it lighter or darker here, and you can change the color by clicking on that blue color and changing it to what you actually want. I went with white. I'm going to go back to the original image to kind of see how dark I made it. I left it at a 67, at a 2 blur, and at a 35 brightness. I'm going to go back here and add the same thing. Next up, what we're going to do is add this text. So for that, of course, we're going to the text option, and we're going to be adding 3 separate text boxes because I want to be able to edit them separately. I want them to be different fonts and colors and just do different things with them. So that's why we're adding 3. We'll start with this first one. And for this first one, we're going to type in social media. So double click inside the box and delete all of this. The font I used is called Pacifico, which is a print font, and the size is a 122. And remember, if it goes into 2 separate lines, you can go ahead and stretch it out to make it all one line. We're going to change the color to one of the saved colors I have down here. We're going to do the pink. The letters, I want to space them out just a bit so that it's easier to read on the thumbnail. And for the shadow, we're going to make it a 6. We're not adding any blur, and we're going to keep it the black that it is right now. So just click enter to apply it. And now our social media has a little bit of the black outline going on. The text opacity, we're going to leave it the same. Going back to text and adding some more. Let me just adjust this a bit. For the next text, we're going to write graphic editor, and then we're going to do another one that says for newbies. And of course, we're going to adjust it. So just hover over it until you see the 4-headed arrow. And sometimes it kind of acts up and you can't see the 4-headed arrow, or it's hard to get to it. So the easiest thing you can do is click on the outside of the graphic, then go back in to adjust your text. Now we're just going to duplicate this text by clicking this icon that looks like 2 pages, adjusting the text towards the bottom, double click to edit the text, and type in what you actually want. And for this one, the only editing we're doing is italicizing it a bit and doing a 101 on the size. Next up, we're going for the arrow. So go to graphics and search for arrow. So this is the one I used, and once it's on your design, you can click on it and you can sort of customize it. So I'm going to flip it around this way, and then right here you can see this arrow that goes around in a circle. You can use it to flip it as well. So right about there is okay. I can adjust it later if I want. If you wanted to also though, you can change the color of the arrow here, but I'm going to leave it as is. Going back to graphics, then to uploads, I'm going to scroll down and apply this tablet device thing here, and this I got from Google. I just googled laptop transparent image. You can do that for pretty much anything you want, a phone, a computer, a tablet. Just Google search transparent mock-up and it will give you different pictures that you can use on your graphics like this. So I'm just moving it around until I get these two dots in frame so that I can move them closer in or farther apart to make it just the right size. So there we go, about that size is okay. Going back to graphics and to uploads, here I have another image that I downloaded from the internet, which is just a bunch of hearts and thumbs ups that I put towards the bottom of the image. And here would be a nice occasion to use this zoom in feature so that you're able to see if your elements are aligned evenly. So I want to get it just right, and I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this image just because I want it to be a little bit taller and align it as well. Now I can click this fit on the zoom in bar so that it goes back to normal. And the next thing I added was this Snappa icon at the top of this tablet device, and going to the corners using these arrows to go in a little so that it's a little bit smaller and fits in here. Next up, we're going to add these icons that are inside the tablet, and these I got right from inside Snappa. And again, making it a little bit smaller and using this arrow that goes around in a circle to kind of make them a little bit slanted. And then we're going to do the same thing for Facebook and for YouTube. And remember, at any point in time, if you want something to go behind something else, you can always use these layer options. Right here, this YouTube goes on top of these little like and heart buttons, which it really doesn't matter, but I think it would just look a little bit better if those were on top. So I'm clicking the move layer back option until these are sort of on top of the YouTube icon. So that's pretty much everything other than the boxes behind the text. And let me show you how to add those. I'm going to shapes, then I'm going to add this box here. We're going to select it and change the color to the yellow that I have saved, and the transparency is going to be about a 70, and we're going to move it right behind the social media. And I wanted the letters to stay a little bit above the boxes. As you can see here, they're just a bit above the boxes. Even for this graphic editor text, it's a little bit above. So I'm going to purposely place it right like that. But the bottom part, I do want it aligned as straight as possible. And once we have our text covered, you can either stop it right at the end of the text or make it go so that it looks like it's coming right behind the tablet. I'm going to leave it right about the middle. Once you're at that point, you can duplicate it so that you can do the same thing to the graphic editor. And we're going to adjust it. And lastly, we're going to make the box go towards the back by using the move layer back option. Just click it. It may take a few times until it goes to the very back of social media, but it eventually will. Same thing with the graphic, just moving it down a bit, move layer back until you see that it is on top. And there we have it, our finished thumbnail. And if I scroll back, I can kind of see that my text is legible as a thumbnail on YouTube. And you can zoom in to kind of make adjustments. And when you're done, all you will do is click download and tell it what size and what file type you want it to download as, or if you are looking to download as a transparent image, you can check mark this. But for now, we're clicking on the first option. If you want to see the steps that I take from start to finish to create a thumbnail and to come up with the concept for it and all of that, go watch this video right here, or click right here to watch my previous video. Thanks so much for stopping by today. I'll see you next time.